Good morning. Always forget that it's automatically on mute. Sorry about that. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I just woke up.
Oh, hey, you can't even tell. Your hair looks all curly and bouncy. Yeah.
I did it yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. I wish I could do that.
Well, as long as there's no close-ups of the rest of me.
That's the one bad thing about curly hair is you have to wash it every day. Well,
Yeah.
I do anyways, or it's so dry.
My daughter has the same hair. It's like,
Yeah. And does she have to wash it every day?
yeah, she wants it to look not like a mane.
Yeah. Otherwise it looks like a tumbleweed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yep, I know. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. All right, let's start off with words. Okay, here we go. Best, without, notice, stay, care, phone, reach, realize, follow, decide, kind, she's, grab, heed, show, inside, suddenly, father, rest, high, herself, grin, father, hour, hope, body, might, hadn't, floor, it's, continue, ran, across, hold, cry, half, pretty, course, great, mouth, class, kid, wonder, miss, learning, least, nice, dark, slowly, done, change, doesn't, together, yet, question, anyway, bad, blue, believe, weak, God, lip, Mr., sleep, fine, clouds. All right. Now some cities, states, and numbers. Here we go. Ready? Fern Bridge, California, 95540. East Lake, Colorado, 80614. Jacksonville, Florida, 32510. Harvey, Louisiana, 70159. Buckhorn, Arizona, 85201. Brookland, Arkansas, 72417. Arlington, Alabama, 36725. Fort Yukon, Alaska, 99740. All right, now common phrases. I'm going to phrase as much as possible. Here we go. When you recalled, where he recalled, where he recalls, where I recall, where I recalled, where you recall, where you recalled, whether he recalled, whether he recalls, whether I recall, whether I recalled, whether or not he recalled, whether or not he recalls, whether or not I recall, whether or not I recalled, whether or not you recall, whether or not you recalled, whether you recall, whether you recalled, which he recalled, which he recalls, which I recall, which I recalled, will recall, would have recalled, would recall, you recalled, received in evidence, can he recollect, can I recollect, can recollect, can you recollect, could have recollected, could recollect, did he recollect, did I recollect, did you recollect, do I recollect, do you recollect, does he recollect, had recollected, have recollected, he recollects, I can't recollect, I didn't recollect, I don't recollect, if he recollects, if I recollect. All right, names and addresses. Here we go, ready? P.L. Potter, P-O-T-T-E-R, San Diego Gas and Electric, P.O. Box 1831, San Diego, California, 92112. Ms. Amy L. Branchaud, B-L-A-N-C-H-A-U-D, 3232 Route 85, Newark, New York, 14313. Ms. Mary Ann Prinsky, Prinske, 1730 North McVicker, number 2, Chicago, Illinois, 60639. P.J. Cordon, Cordon, 4920 Brookwood Road, number 3, Youngstown, Ohio, 44512. Ms. Sharon A. Roslin, Roslen, White Bear Lake Area High School, 3550 McKnight Road, White Bear Lake, Minnesota, 55110. Ms. Susan G. Folman, Follman, Box 45, Route 5, Leeds, North Dakota, 58346. Mr. Darren L. Morris, Morris, 731 Veronica Avenue, St. Louis, Illinois, 62505. Ms. Kathleen B. Bradshaw, Bradshaw, 12109 North 5th Street, Parker, Colorado, 80134. Mr. Craig L. Black, Black, Bass Memorial Academy, Route 4, Lumberton, Mississippi, 39450. All right. Got some legal briefs in sentences. You're going to hear allege, ALG, allegation, ALGS, or some people write AELG. I like ALGS. As a matter of fact, as a matter of law, assault and battery. Okay, here are your sentences. They allege that they were out of town. The people allege it was first-degree murder. They are going to allege premeditation. The defendant alleged he was not in town. The plaintiff alleges that it happened yesterday. We need to know we need to know what he alleged. They are alleging that it was planned. They are alleging that it was force. That allegation is simply absurd. The defendant denied all of the allegations. The allegation is murder in the first degree. Those allegations are simply absurd. As a matter of fact, Sheila was the one. The weatherman predicted unlimited sunshine, as a matter of fact. Bill sailed yesterday, as a matter of fact. I am, as a matter of fact, tone deaf. His objection was overruled as a matter of law. As a matter of law, the plaintiff must prove his case. It was decided as a matter of law. As a matter of law, we cite People versus Jones. The charge was assault and battery. She must prove assault and battery. There was no evidence of assault and battery. She said it was a case of assault and battery. All right. I've got a drill here that focuses on after and avenue. So I'm going to give you the phrases first and then the sentences. Here we go. After all, Peach Avenue. After him, 3rd Avenue. This afternoon. After this, Lemon Avenue. After them, 4th Avenue. All afternoon. After that, Grape Avenue. After us, 5th Avenue. The afternoon. See me afterwards. Which avenue is it? We can go after all. We leave afterward. Walk up the avenue. Afternoon is the best time. Phone after court. It's in the afternoon. Call after work. It's an avenue. Meet after court. It's on Fir Avenue. Yes, go after it. They won after all. Take that avenue. Chase after them. It left an aftertaste. It is an avenue of approach. Check on it afterwards. His father came after him. The avenue winds around. After you finish, file it. Set it for this afternoon. This is the wrong avenue. He confessed after trial. Check on it afterwards. Meet me this afternoon. Use a different avenue. He was acquitted after all. He was sad after the race. Check on it afterwards. I live on New York Avenue. It was just an afterthought. The aftermath was grim. This avenue is closed. Come this afternoon. Try again after work. Try another avenue. Meet me after court. I work after school. It is on Fifth Avenue. Try Western Avenue. We'll talk afterwards. It's a wide avenue. Leave after the speech. Call me after the test. Come after the logs. All right. Now, I've got some consonant compounds. This focuses on initial consonants FR. All right, here we go. Frightened frogs are frisky. Don't freeze French fries. Don't fracture the fragile fragment. Fritters are free. Fragrant odors are in France. A frame house has wooden framework. Free men get frantic about frame-ups. Be frank when talking about francs in France. A freebooter is a free thinker and sometimes has freckles. Frankenstein lived in Frankfurt. The fraternity ate fresh freestone fruit. Freezers are shipped as freight on freighters. Don't fret about frequent Fridays. Friars love French fried friars and fritters. My frightened friend wore a frock with frills. Frippery frocks with fringe are frivolous. Palm fronds and fruit don't like frost. The frogman frolicked in the freezing water. The frugal Franciscan was friendly. All right. Now I've got some legal doublets. Here we go. Ready? Alias writ, jury charge, jury trial, life estate, good faith, fee simple, third party, minor child, class action, clean hands, circuit court, small claims, third degree, civil remedy, public entity, common law, joint venture, grace period, pilot project, joint tenancy, child custody, grand larceny, appeal notice, silent partner, adverse party, defective title, vesting power, expert witness, public utilities, applicable law, second degree, bench warrant, operative date, actual table, absentee voter, wrongful death, judge advocate, parole evidence, quit claim deed, artificial person, collateral issue, mechanics lien, frivolous action, prevailing party, enabling clause, governing rules, reviewing court, holographic will, common carrier, existing statutes, moral turpitude, non-cupative will, prejudicial error, conditional sale, amicable action, judgment debtor, eminent domain, legislative intent, closing argument, local jurisdiction, and probable validity. All right. Moving into literary and jury charge. I'm going to start off with a narrative answer. And I'm going to read this. It's about a paragraph long. I'm going to read this once at 180, again at 200, and again at 225. Okay, good morning, Catherine. I see Catherine joined us. It's great to have you. All right, here we go. First time at 180. Okay, here we go. I came down the hall to take a letter to the main office. I did note that the floor had been waxed because I did say to Mr. Mason that the floor looked very nice. He said that he wondered why they had waxed the floor on Tuesday. They usually did it over the weekend. As I turned the corner, my feet went out from under me, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I knew right away that something was wrong with my arm. I must have fallen on it because it was twisted behind me. My elbow and shoulder hurt, and I had hot pains going all the way up. I just sat on the floor and did not do a thing. I felt shocked and pain. Then Mr. Mason ran over and tried to help me get to my feet. It was hard to get up, and I felt weak all over. All right, so let's do that again at 200. Here we go. I came down the hall to take a letter to the main office. I did note that the floor had been waxed because I did say to Mr. Mason that the floor looked very nice. He said that he wondered why they had waxed the floor on Tuesday. They usually did it over the weekend. As I turned the corner, my feet just went out from under me, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I knew right away that something was wrong with my arm. I must have fallen on it because it was twisted behind me. My elbow and shoulder hurt, and I had hot pains going all the way up. I just sat on the floor and did not do a thing. I felt shocked and pain. Then Mr. Mason ran over and tried to help me get to my feet. It was hard to get up, and I felt weak all over. All right, last time at 225. Here we go. I came down the hall to take a letter to the main office. I did note that the floor had been waxed because I did say to Mr. Mason that the floor looked very nice. He said that he wondered why they had waxed the floor on Tuesday. They usually did it over the weekend. As I turned the corner, my feet just went out from under me, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I knew right away that something was wrong with my arm. I must have fallen on it because it was twisted behind me. My elbow and shoulder hurt, and I had hot pains going all the way up. I just sat on the floor and did not do a thing. I felt shocked and pain. Then Mr. Mason ran over and tried to help me get to my feet. It was hard to get up, and I felt weak all over. All right, how was that? All right. Now we're going to move into some jury charge, and the subject here is criminal. All right, here we go. And I'll read this at 200, okay? All right. Insanity, as the expression is used in these instructions, means such a diseased and deranged condition of the mental faculties as to render the person incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong in relation to the act with which he is charged. An irresistible impulse to commit an act which a party knows to be wrong and unlawful does not constitute the insanity which is a legal defense. The standard of accountability is this: had the party sufficient mental capacity to appreciate the character and quality of the act? Did he know and understand that it was a violation of the rights of another, and if in itself was it wrong? Did he know that it was prohibited by the law of the land and that its commission would entail punishment and penalties upon him? If he had the capacity thus to appreciate the character and comprehend the possible or probable consequences of his act, he is responsible to the law for the act thus committed and is to be judged accordingly. Although it is true, as you have been instructed, that generally the burden of proof is upon the prosecution, yet to this rule there is this exception: where insanity is relied upon as a defense, the burden of proving the existence of such insanity is on the defendant, and it is incumbent upon him to establish by a preponderance of the evidence that he was insane at the time of committing the act that is charged, and the evidence of mental derangement must be such in amount that, if the single issue of sanity or insanity of the defendant should be submitted to the jury in a civil case, they must find that he is insane. Insanity must be established by the greater weight of the evidence. This is what we refer to as the preponderance of the evidence. All right. Moving into congressional record. Let me give you a word list. Okay, we've got Let's see. Richard Wyburn, Mississippi, mainstream, obstacles, confronted, compensate, handicapped, veterans, foster, advancement, sacrificed, Mr. Speaker, National Handicapped Americans Day, House Committee for Advancement of Handicapped Veterans, Congress of the United States, and I think I gave you obstacles, rehabilitation. Yeah, that's about it. All right, so I'm going to read this. I'll give you guys a little push. Okay, I'll read this at 200 instead of 180. All right, here we go. Mr. Speaker, it is my privilege to introduce in the House today a resolution designating April 12th as National Handicapped Americans Day. Those of us who have served on the House Committee for Advancement of Handicapped Veterans are quite proud of the long and outstanding record achieved by the Congress of the United States in responding to the needs of the handicapped, and especially to those who have served in the defense of our nation. During the past several years, we have been able to enact legislation to care for their physical and medical needs. We also have helped to foster a general awareness and a better understanding and appreciation of the veterans who have suffered and sacrificed in the line of duty for their country. Congress has recently authorized and improved extensive programs to provide readjustment compensation and rehabilitation services to assist the handicapped person in overcoming the obstacles that are confronted. Although we have made great strides in helping the handicapped, there is a lot that still can be done. In particular, the disabled person needs to become part of the mainstream of society. We need to encourage the handicapped to live more productive, full, and rewarding lives. On April 12th, the National Organization for Handicapped Americans will hold its national convention in Portland, Oregon. Thousands of handicapped Americans will be attending this convention. The National Organization for Handicapped Americans will be sponsoring workshops of self-awareness, job potentials, and mainstreaming. The organization's representatives have invited as their keynote speaker Richard Wyburn, governor of Mississippi, who is a handicapped American himself. At the request of the National Organization for Handicapped Americans, I am proud to introduce this legislation designating April 12th as the National Handicapped Americans Day. Now, I have a question for you guys. We're doing good on time. Have you guys been following along in the mid-class with the O.J. Simpson, the book he wrote, Confessions of the Killer? Okay, it's so interesting. So even though I've read it, if you guys haven't, I think I'll start reading it to you guys. I've been reading it in the lower and mid speeds, but if you guys haven't heard it, then I'll just start from the beginning. So this is the night in question, and this is the actual book that he wrote, but then the Brown family got the rights to it. They won the rights to it. So the court told O.J. Simpson, basically, he wrote this when he was in, I don't know if he was in jail yet or not for the robbery thing, but the court said, no, you will not get any money from the proceeds. The Gold's Brown family will get all the proceeds. So then what they did was they said they kept his words from the book, but they changed the book title to Confessions of the Killer. But they said that they did not change any of the words in the book. So this is just the chapter called The Night in Question. And then eventually the Brown and Gold family, they pulled it off the shelves. So I have a friend that has this book. So I made a copy of it, of this chapter, because you can't even find it. I mean, I'm sure you can find it, but it's pretty hard. You know, it's not just out there for you. So I'm sure people have them and they would sell them, but it's kind of hard to find. So it's so interesting. So this is his words of, if I did it, this is how it, I mean, it's pretty amazing. So, okay, I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then we'll go on next week and finish it. All right, here we go. All right, I'll read this at 200. Okay, here we go. I was in a lousy mood after the recital. I was exhausted and was not looking forward to getting on another plane. But most of all, I was upset about my brief conversation with Ron Fishman. That's one of his friends. I didn't like what Ron had said about Nicole and the girls. We don't know the half of it, he said. The half I did know about was bad enough, but Ron seemed to think it was worse than either of us imagined. I also thought back to my conversation with Cora, Ron's wife, and felt another twinge of guilt. I'd pretty much given up on Nicole, but she was still the mother of my kids. I had to do something, if not for her, for them. For a few moments, sitting there in my living room, I wondered if I should threaten to fight her for custody. The idea was not to take the kids away from her. I knew that would destroy her, but to shake her up so badly that she'd finally start trying to get her shit together. The girl was an accident waiting to happen. As I was thinking about this possibility, Cato showed up. He was carrying a towel and a magazine and asked if he could use the jacuzzi. Sure, I said. How was the recital, he asked. Fine, I said. Did you talk to Nicole, he asked. I went out of my way not to talk to her, I said. You look bummed, man, he said. What happened? Nothing, I said. This shit is endless. You should have seen the skirt she was wearing. She thinks she's still a teenager. Can I ask you something, Cato said. Why is Nicole so fucking mad at me? I didn't want to get into it, all that business about Cato living rent-free without doing anything to earn it, so I told him not to worry. You know how she is, I said. She puts her anger and craziness on everyone else. I noticed the magazine in his hand. It was the current issue of Playboy. Cato flipped it open and showed me one of the girls inside. He said he knew her and could introduce me, but I wasn't interested. He went off to get into the jacuzzi, and I found myself thinking about a Raiders cheerleader I'd known some years back. She looked a little like the girl in Playboy. I dug up her number and called, and when her machine picked up, I left a message. Hey, it's me, OJ. I wanted to see how you were doing and to tell you that I'm a free man, a totally free man. Call me. I hung up and realized that I really did feel kind of free, but the feeling only lasted a few moments. I found myself thinking about Nicole again, and then about Paula. I was pissed at Nicole, and Paula was pissed at me because of Nicole. Maybe I should have taken Paula to the dance reception. I had tried to be respectful of Nicole and the Browns, and once again I got bit in the ass for my efforts. I went into my home office and started getting some of my things together for the trip. I noticed I only had $100 bills, and I knew I'd need a few fives for the airport sky caps, so I went out to see if Cato had any change. He was already done with the jacuzzi, which he'd left running, and I turned it off and went by the guest house. Cato, man, please try to remember to turn the jacuzzi off when you get out, I said. Did I forget to turn it off? He asked. Man, I used to wonder if the guy was all there. Yeah, Cato, you forgot to turn it off. I'm sorry, he said. I held out a C note and asked if he could break it, but all he had was 20s. I borrowed one and told him I'd pay him back. I need it, I said. I just realized I haven't eaten anything, and I'm going to run over to McDonald's. Can I go with you, he said. Sure, I said, but hurry up. I'm pressed for time. We took the Bentley and ordered at the drive-through window. I ate my burger on the ride back. Cato saved his for later. I was busy eating, so I didn't talk much, and I found myself thinking back to the recital and how cute Sydney had looked up on the stage doing her little dance number. It put me in a dark mood. The last few times I'd called Nicole to try to get the kids, which I often did on the spur of the moment, she had gone out of her way to make it hard for me. She always found some reason not to let me take them. The kids are tired. They've just eaten. They've had enough excitement for one day. I couldn't understand it. She didn't even want me to see my own kids. It seemed like she was making everything as difficult as possible for me. It's true what they say about never really knowing another person. Nicole wasn't even Nicole anymore. She was a complete stranger to me. I finished the burger and left and felt lousy. It had gone down wrong. When we got back to the house, I went inside and started packing, laying some of my things out on the bed. Then I went to the garage to get my golf clubs. There were a few dead balls in the bag, so I set them out on the driveway and chipped them into the neighbor's yard. I couldn't seem to stop thinking about Nicole, though. Usually when I pick up a golf club, the world disappears. That's one of the things I like about the sport. But this time I couldn't get her out of my head. I remember thinking that woman is going to be the death of me. It was probably around 9:30 by then. I figured Nicole and the kids and the Browns had finished dinner and gone their separate ways. As I found out later, they'd eaten at Mezzaluna, an Italian place in the heart of Brentwood. Nicole's mother, Judy, had left her glasses at the restaurant, and she'd called Nicole, who called the restaurant, and learned they'd found the glasses. Nicole was told that Ron Goldman was just finishing his shift waiting tables and that he would be happy to drop them off at the Bundy condo when he was done. I knew none of this, of course. None of this had anything to do with my life, not then anyway. I set the golf stuff aside and fished out my cell phone and called Paula from the driveway. Either she wasn't home or she wasn't answering. I think it was the latter. I'd called her several times that day to apologize for not taking her to the recital, and it looked like she was determined to punish me. Hell, for all I knew, she was already thinking about moving on. If that was actually the case, I had Nicole to thank for that. The lesson here was simple. It doesn't always pay to do the right thing, especially if you're doing it for the people who don't give a fuck about you. So we'll stop there, and next week we'll continue on. There's quite a bit of cussing in this. I think that's just how he talks. All right. Okay, so let's just do a one-page Q&A before we start our other transcript. This is just plaintiff. I'm going to read it once at 180, again at 200, again at 225. And let me give you a word list. You're going to hear vehicle, residence, department, motorcycle, vicinity, Harley Davidson, and that's HARL. And then I come back for D, long AFD. It's kind of my shortened way to write it. Okay. All right. Here we go. First time at 180. Remembering back to February 28, at that time, were you in the vicinity of this courthouse and police department? Yes, I was. Did you have a vehicle with you at that time? Yes, I did. What kind? Well, I had a Harley Davidson. That is a motorcycle. A motorcycle. That was your vehicle, was it? Yes, it was. Do you know the motor number? Do you have that in your possession? No. Did you park your vehicle? Yes, I did. Where? In the back, in the parking lot. On that same day, did you find your vehicle missing? I did. Did you ever see that vehicle or any part of it again? Yes, I did. Where? In that individual's house. I don't know what his name is. I don't recall his name offhand. Was that at the defendant's residence? Yes, it was. At the time you examined the parts of your motorcycle, were they on your motorcycle? No, the parts were on his motorcycle. Do these pictures depict that Harley Davidson motorcycle? Yes. Okay, again at 200. Remembering back to February 28, at that time, were you in the vicinity of this courthouse and police department? Yes, I was. Did you have a vehicle with you at that time? Yes, I did. What kind? Well, I had a Harley Davidson. That is a motorcycle? A motorcycle. That was your vehicle, was it? Yes, it was. Do you know the motor number? Do you have that in your possession? No. Did you park your vehicle? Yes, I did. Where? In the back, in the parking lot. On that same day, did you find your vehicle missing? I did. Did you ever see that vehicle or any part of it again? Yes, I did. Where? In that individual's house. I don't know what his name is. I don't recall his name offhand. Was that at the defendant's residence? Yes, it was. At the time you examined the parts on your motorcycle, were they on your motorcycle? No, the parts were on his motorcycle. Do these pictures depict that Harley Davidson motorcycle? Yes. Okay, so we'll do it again at 225. Remembering back to February 28, at that time, were you in the vicinity of this courthouse and police department? Yes, I was. Did you have a vehicle with you at that time? Yes, I did. What kind? Well, I had a Harley Davidson. That is a motorcycle? A motorcycle. That was your vehicle, was it? Yes, it was. Do you know the motor number? Do you have that? Do you have that in your possession? No. Did you park your vehicle? Yes, I did. Where? In the back in the parking lot. On that same day, did you find your vehicle missing? I did. Did you ever see that vehicle or any part of it again? Yes, I did. Where? In that individual's house. I don't know what his name is. I don't recall his name offhand. Was that at the defendant's residence? Yes, it was. At the time you examined the parts of your motorcycle, were they on your motorcycle? No, the parts were on his motorcycle. Do these pictures depict that Harley Davidson motorcycle? Yes. Sorry about that. I hit the answer and it was still the question. All right, so let's move into for voice. All right, so this is going to be, let's see, defense, but plaintiff comes in as well as the court. Okay. All right, here we go. I'll start at 180 and work my way to 225, okay? So are you saying the methamphetamine was in a liquid state when it was in the coffee filter? It was damp, so it was wet, but it was in a crystallized state and it was damp, correct? Yes, that is correct. It was not in a liquid state inside the coffee filter, is that correct? Yes, thank you, nothing further. Ms. Saunders? Nothing, Your Honor. Mr. Mason? Nothing, Your Honor, nothing further. May this witness be excused? Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Deputy. You may step down. You may call your next witness, Mr. Mason. People call Deputy Salmon. Do you solemnly state that the evidence you shall state in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. Please state your full name for the record, spelling your first and your last name. My name is David Salmon, S-A-L-M-O-N. You may inquire, Mr. Mason. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Deputy. Good morning. What is your occupation? I'm a detective with the Oxnard Sheriff's Department. How long have you been a sworn peace officer in the state of California? A little over 9 years now. What is your current assignment? I'm a detective with the Narcotics Division assigned to their Region 2 Street Enforcement Team. Could you briefly describe your background, training, and experience relating to narcotics investigations? And in your case, I'd like you to speak of possession of sales of methamphetamine and also just basic marijuana. Okay, the training in the basic academy, which covered possession, transportation, sales of narcotics, also marijuana, and the cultivation of it. Other experiences, just working patrol in the jail setting. And I'd say involvement in 300 to 400 different cases involving subjects either under the influence and possession for sales or cultivation of methamphetamine and or marijuana. Pertaining to possession of sales of methamphetamine, I would estimate I've had experiences with 40 to 50 cases regarding that. Okay, now specifically with marijuana itself, how many times have you come in contact with marijuana? Several hundred. Does it have a distinctive smell? Yes. Texture? Yes, it does. Thank you. Now the search warrant that was previously testified to on September 11th on Charter Road. Were you in charge of that particular case? Yes, I was the case agent for it. So we heard prior testimony about a search warrant. When you arrived, how many deputies were there? I can't say exactly, but I would say 7 or 8 of us. Now, immediately upon arrival, did you contact anybody? Yes, I did. How many subjects? 2. Where did you contact them? In what would possibly be the best referred to as the front yard of the residence. Now, was that a male or a female? Yes, male and a female. So 1 male, 1 female? Correct. Do you see the male in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. Could you please point out where he's seated and describe what he's wearing? Sure. The gentleman seated behind defense counsel wearing orange. May the record reflect the witness has identified defendant Myers? The record will so reflect. Now, you said there was a female also out in front of the yard? Yes. Do you see her in the courtroom today? Yes, I do. Could you please point out where she's seated and describe what she's wearing? She's seated to my left of the male behind defense counsel wearing orange. Let the record reflect the witness has identified defendant Patterson. Yes, the record will so reflect. Did you detain them outside? Correct. Did you observe or find anything in the general area where they were that was unusual? Yes, near the female subject, we located a methamphetamine pipe that she had dropped prior to or as we were arriving. And we will get into her statement in a little bit. As they were secured, did you then make entry into the house? Yes. Did you contact anybody else inside the house? Yes, we did. How many people? One. Male or female? It was a male. And do you know how old that person was? He was the male defendant's son, 14 or 15 years old. I don't recall exactly. So he was a juvenile. Yes. And was that person's name Mason Meyer or Myers? Yes. Did he tell you who his father was? Yes. Who was that? The male defendant here, Mr. Myers. Did he say who lived there? Yes, he told me him and his father. Okay, anybody else that he mentioned? I don't recall specifically. But he lived at that house? Correct. I'm going to assume you weren't the only person searching the residence. Correct. But anything that was found, would somebody come and point out what they found? Yes. Okay, now specifically to your search, what area did you search? Well, I don't recall if I searched a particular area. Usually a case agent will assign people to different cases or areas, and I'm kind of the case agent overseeing things. I may have assisted here or there, but I don't recall me personally searching a specific area. Now, earlier, Deputy Ramos testified to the bag of somewhat moist, damp, specific methamphetamine. Correct. What room was that found in? The front room of the residence where we made the entry. Were you present when that was found or pointed out to you later? I think I was nearby, but it was pointed out to me. By Deputy Ramos? Yes. In that particular room, what else was found? There was a few marijuana plants that were growing in the closet adjacent to the wall where that particular suspected methamphetamine was located, was a cabinet. Inside that cabinet was another baggie which contained suspected methamphetamine along with several chemicals including acetone. Did you find any marijuana itself? Yes, on the wall where the suspected methamphetamine and the coffee filter was located, we located 2 separate baggies of marijuana. Did you find any paperwork pertaining to any subjects? Yes, we found some paperwork in that room with Tom Myers' name on it. Find any scales? We found 1 digital scale in the room. A money counter? Yes, we found a digital money counter. Okay, any walkie-talkies or scanners? Yes, it looks like we found 1 police scanner in there. In the same room? Yes. Now, based on the items that were consistent with a methamphetamine lab, was anybody called out? Yes, they were. Who was that? Initially, Detective Hogan. And then, did the crime lab also come out? Yes. Can you estimate the amount of time from the point that Deputy Ramos found that 1 bag of the moist item and when Detective Hogan arrived? Well, I would estimate from when he found that to when Detective Hogan arrived, maybe an hour to 2 hours. And then how much later was it before the crime lab, and specifically I'm talking about John Masters, arrived in relation to Detective Hogan? Okay, I would say the crime where John Masters arrived about 2 hours after Detective Hogan. So 3.5 to 4 hours from the time Deputy Ramos found that's the best I can recall, again, my estimation. Now, as part of your investigation, did you interview Detective Patterson? Yes, I did. Okay, I'm sorry, I meant Defendant Patterson. Yes, I did. Did you read her Miranda rights? Yes, I did. Did that include a right to an attorney? Yes, it was. Did that include a right to remain silent? Yes. Did she indicate she understood those rights? Yes. Did she indicate she was willing to speak to you? Yes. What, if anything, did she tell you about the meth pipe you found outside? She admitted when she saw us arriving at the residence, she tossed it on the ground. Did you ask her what you would find inside of the house? Yes, I did. What, if anything, did she say? She said there may be additional pipes and possibly the methamphetamine she smoked earlier. Did she say how much methamphetamine? I don't recall specifically. Now, in preparation of your testimony today, did you contact the Oxnard Crime Lab? Yes, I did. Did you speak to John Masters? Yes, I did. Did he tell you what his title was? Yes. What was that? He's a criminalist too. Did he tell you what his educational background was? Yes, he has a BS from USC in chemistry. Okay, did he tell you what his formal training was? Yes, he has 6 months in a training lab, and I believe could I refer to my report too, if that would refresh your recollection? Yes, it certainly would. With the court's permission, yes, you may, go ahead. He has 6 months in-house training in controlled substances and also 6 months in the methamphetamine labs. How long on the job experience? Oh, about 9 years. Okay, did he tell you how many methamphetamine lab cases he's been involved in? Yes, approximately 100 to 110. Now, has he testified as an expert in identifying methamphetamine? Yes. How about marijuana? Yes. How about methamphetamine labs themselves? In a lab, just in a preliminary hearing. Okay, now in this particular case, did he analyze a substance or a group of items packaged under lab number 17-153032? Yes. Under Oxnard Sheriff's Department report number 17171894? Yes, he did. Did he tell you what names were on the packaging when it was received? Yes. What were the names? As far as the names of the defendants or the suspects? Oh, okay. Heidi Patterson and Thomas Myers. Did you say Thomas Myers? That's my recollection, Thomas Myers. Would reviewing your report refresh your recollection? Yes, it sure would. With the court's permission? Yes, you may. I'm sorry, Sean Thomas Myers. Did he tell you the offense date on? Yes, he did. What was that? I don't recall specifically. If I could refer to my report, if that would refresh your recollection, go ahead. The offense date was on September 15th, 2014. Did he tell you when he analyzed the items? October 17th, 2014. Thank you. Now, items were numbered, correct? Yes. And as far as, and I'm going to skip over 101 for now, items 102, 103, and 107. Did he analyze any of those items? Yes, he did. I believe he analyzed all of those. What items were there? 102, 103, and 107. I'm sorry, what test did he? Could I refer to my report if that would refresh your recollection? Yes, you may. On those 3 items, 102, 103, and 107, he performed a microscopic exam as well as a chemical test. Okay, did he have an opinion as to what the substances were in all of those items? Yes, he believed they were marijuana. Okay, and did he weigh those items? Yes, he did. Okay, as far as 102, what was the net weight of item 102? Again, if I could refer to my notes. Sure, if that would refresh your recollection. Yes, it would. Yes, you may. Item number 102 was 8.16 grams. How about item 103? That would be 9.62 grams. And how about 107? 8.45 grams. And that was all marijuana? Correct. Now items 104 and 105, what test did he perform on those? Again, if I could refer to my report. Sure, if he could have an ongoing allowance for that, Your Honor. Yes, an ongoing allowance is fine. On these, he performed a color test, a microcrystal test, excuse me, a thin layer of, I'm not a scientist, but it was some kind of a test, something like that. Okay, and did he tell you what the results of those tests were? Yes, all 3 of these items contained, both of these 2 items contained methamphetamine. Okay, now specifically with item number 104, what was the weight of that item? That was 4.52 grams. And specifically the 105, what was the weight of that item? That was 9.88 grams. Okay, now as to item 105, was that the particular one that Deputy Ramos testified to that was damp or moist? Yes, it was. So that was 9.88 grams, you said? Yes, it was. Did you ask Mr. Masters if the test appeared valid and unexceptional? Yes, he did, and they did. What did he say? Yes. Are the tests he performed currently accepted in the scientific community? Yes, they were. Were these done in accordance with his training and experience? Yes, they were. His opinion as to the 3 suspected methamphetamine, what was that? That all 3 items were marijuana. And the 2 that were suspected methamphetamine, what was his opinion? Those 2 contained methamphetamine. Now, based on Mr. Masters' experience with methamphetamine labs, did you ask him about the items that he testified to? That he testified to, Deputy Ramos testified was moist? Yes, I did. Did you ask him about why it would have been dry and what that meant? Yes, I did. And what was that? What did he say? Well, he said that a part of the process is to wash methamphetamine with the acetone, and it was possible that when Deputy Ramos touched the suspected methamphetamine, that it could have been moist because acetone dries very rapidly, and it would be very common for it to be dry several hours later when Mr. Masters came on the scene to collect the evidence. But he did testify that would be a stage of processing. Yes, he did. Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Oh, I do. I'm sorry. I take that back. I just have a few more. Go ahead. It appears based on the two that he had slightly over 13 to 14 grams of methamphetamine found. That is correct. Did you form an opinion whether that was possessed for sales? Yes, I did. What was that opinion? I believe based on the quantity of methamphetamine and the other items located in the residence there, that it was possession for sales. Thank you very much. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Mr. Waltz? Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy, when you wrote your report, you indicated on, I don't see a page number here, unfortunately, but you indicate on what seems to be the second page of your narrative, in a separate container, I located a coffee filter which contained a light crystalline substance. Isn't that correct? If I could refer to my report, please. If it would refresh your recollection, go ahead. It would. Yes, you may. Okay, yes, that is correct. Yet, we just heard Deputy Ramos testify a minute ago that it was, in fact, he who located that. Is that right? Yes, initially, he located it and that he pointed it out to me. So when I mentioned that in my report, I was implying all of that. Yes. Okay, well, you didn't actually indicate in your report that Deputy Ramos located the coffee filter, then brought it to your attention, did you? I did not put it in my report, no. Okay, however, later on in your report, you do specifically give Deputy Ramos credit for being the one who tested the substance found. Is that right? That is correct. Okay, you also interviewed a young man by the name of, what is his name? Let's see. Mason? Yes, the son of Sean Myers. You interviewed the son of Sean Myers. Is that correct? Yes. You asked him about smelling any chemical odors in the house. Is that right? Correct. He indicated he did not smell any chemical odors in the house. Is that right? Yes, that is correct. Okay, he indicated he lived in the house about 8 months. Is that correct? Yes. He indicated he never saw any glassware or large breakers in the home. Is that right? Yes. I mean large beakers. That's correct. He indicated he had never seen any burners in the home. Is that right? Correct. He indicated he had never seen any methamphetamine in the home. Is that right? Correct. And he also indicated that he had never seen any of the manufacturing of methamphetamine, right? Well, I don't know. What do you mean by that? Well, all of the above, anything to make methamphetamine. He never noticed any methamphetamine activity going on in the house. Is that correct? That is correct. He did, however, tell you that his dad had some marijuana plants. Is that right? Yes. And yes, he had seen the marijuana growing in the house. Is that right? Yes. When you interviewed John Masters, he indicated to you that methamphetamine that had been washed would dry very rapidly. Is that correct? With the acetone? Yes, correct. Did he give you a time or an estimate of what he thought it would take for methamphetamine to dry? I did not ask him specifically. Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing further. Counsel, I have no questions. Thank you. Counsel, anything further? No, Your Honor. Thank you. May this witness be excused? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. You may step down. Any further witnesses on behalf of the people? No, Your Honor. People rest? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Wilson, any affirmative defense on behalf of Mr. Myers? No, ma'am. Okay, any affirmative defense on behalf of Ms. Patterson? No, none, Your Honor. Okay, motion by the people. People move to have the defendants held to answer for any and all crimes evidenced by the preliminary hearing. Mr. Wilson, Your Honor, I'd ask the court to not hold Mr. Myers to answer for this manufacturing of methamphetamine charge. That's count one. There's really no evidence that's been presented to indicate any manufacturing of methamphetamine. We have this young man interviewed at this scene. He indicates that there was no strong odor of any chemicals. None of the materials found to manufacture, none of the materials, the glassware beakers, none of those kinds of things that were located at the scene, burners, anything to that effect. We have Deputy Ramos simply saying that he thought that the methamphetamine located in the coffee filter appeared to be a little wet to him. The lab analysis indicated that the acetone would dry very rapidly, and we have Detective Hogan indicating he arrived at an hour to an hour and a half later, and he felt as if that methamphetamine was still damp and the coffee filter was still damp when he arrived. That contradicts Deputy Ramos's testimony, where he indicated that the methamphetamine was damp, but the coffee filter was dry. It seems as the testimony provided by Deputy Ramos would indicate that we were later in time, if you will. Obviously, if the coffee filter and the methamphetamine were drying, and then we have Deputy Hogan show up an hour to an hour and a half later, and now all of a sudden, we've got back in time to the point where the coffee filter and the methamphetamine are damp, which is just preposterous considering the lab analysis that indicated the acetone would dry very rapidly. We also have Deputy Ramos, based on his estimations, indicating that he didn't make any entry into the house until approximately 30 minutes after his arrival. So what we have is allegedly methamphetamine that's supposedly damp out to 2 hours after the deputies arrive on the scene, where they locate Mr. Myers in the front yard. So we have a minimum of an hour and a half gap, maybe a 2-hour gap, maybe more, of a substance that dries, quote, very rapidly, according to the lab analyst. So I think that what we have here is insufficient proof to show that there was no manufacturing going on. Clearly there was possession, that's fine. I would submit on count 2, but I think the court should not hold on count 1. As to count 4, I don't believe there's been sufficient evidence to show that there was any in danger or that the child was placed in any danger, according to count 4, based on that young man's own testimony or his statements to law enforcement. He never really saw anything going on, no manufacturing of methamphetamine or anything similar to that. So I would submit on the court's discretion as to count 2 and 3, but ask that the court not make a holding order as to 1 and 4. I would ask that Ms. Patterson not be held to answer on any of the charges, and that's simply because there was nothing presented to show that she knew about the marijuana in the house, that she knew about any manufacturing or sales. Nothing was presented to even show she lived in the house. She was simply out in the front yard like 40 minutes after the search began. She dropped a meth pipe and she said that she had smoked some meth earlier in the day, and there might be meth in the house from what she was smoking. Clearly, she's not smoking damp methamphetamine. So there's no knowledge at all about any of the charges that she's been charged with. So I'm going to submit on that. Mr. Mason, as far as count 1, we had 2 experts, Detective Hogan and Mr. Masters, both testified that cleaning with acetone and drying and crystallizing, it is a stage of the processing. The section requires any stage within that processing or within the manufacturing stage. I don't recall Deputy Ramos saying that the coffee filter was dry. If he did, then I missed it. But we clearly have 2 witnesses who says it was damp and moist. The coffee filter was yellow and it smelled of acetone. It's clearly a stage of processing. As far as count 4 with the juvenile, regardless of how you go with the manufacturing, although I feel like that's been proven, you still have 2 baggies of meth accessible, marijuana plants, pipes, and all of the other items that are accessible to a 14 or a 15-year-old child. As far as Ms. Patterson, I think Ms. Saunders misspoke. Ms. Patterson was there when the deputies got there. The search might have been a few minutes later. She was there. She threw the pipe. She knew there was meth in the house. She knew there would be meth in the house. She used it earlier. And I think based on the testimony that we have proven all counts for both defendants. If I could just be heard for a moment, Your Honor, it was Deputy Ramos that testified that he was there. He was outside there for about a half hour before they secured the house. When he secured the house, neither of the co-defendants were inside the house, and it wasn't until about 40 minutes later that he located Ms. Patterson and her co-defendant outside in the front yard. May I clarify that, Your Honor? Yes, you may. Go ahead. Well, Detective Salmon testified that as soon as he got there, he contacted both of them in the front of the house. Yes, but there was no testimony as to when Deputy Salmon got there in relation to Deputy Ramos, and if I could add, there was testimony regarding this wet methamphetamine. The testimony of the criminalist, the 115 testimony from this John Masters, was that it was dry when he arrived, which again contradicts the testimony of Detective Hogan and Deputy Ramos. Anything further by either side? No, nothing. Submit. In addressing count 1, there was testimony, Mr. Waltz, by Detective Hogan, that the last stage of manufacturing methamphetamine is the cleaning process, in which he stated that you use acetone and coffee filters to clean and finish the methamphetamine. It gives it a better look. It's whiter or crystallizes it, which people refer to when they buy it. I'm paraphrasing some of his testimony, of course. And he said that it is the last stage of processing methamphetamine. There's also testimony from Mr. Masters from the crime lab that examined the items and stated that the methamphetamine located in item number 105 was in a process of manufacturing methamphetamine, because the last stage of processing is to wash the methamphetamine with acetone. And that's what was found in the house, was a coffee filter filled with methamphetamine that smelled of acetone. That was in the methamphetamine itself was damp. The coffee filter was damp, and that clearly is the stage of processing. As for count 4, Mr. Waltz, cruelty to a child by endangering health as a misdemeanor, there was testimony that there were chemicals present, as well as methamphetamine, marijuana, and other items that would cause or could cause a child to endanger his health or safety. As for Ms. Patterson, Ms. Saunders, there was testimony from Detective Salmon that when he interviewed her, she admitted throwing the methamphetamine pipe down when the police arrived, that she was aware there was more methamphetamine in the house, that she had just smoked some. She's aware of the items that are inside of the house. So I'm finding there's sufficient evidence to hold her to answer as well. It does appear to the court that the offenses as set forth in the felony complaint, specifically count 1, manufacturing methamphetamine, count 2, possession for sale of a controlled substance, count 3, cultivating marijuana, and count 4, cruelty to a child by endangering health as a misdemeanor. Those offenses have been committed. There is probable cause to believe that Mr. Myers and Ms. Patterson are guilty of those offenses. They are held to answer to stand trial for those charges and any other charges shown by the evidence. This matter is set for arraignment in Department 2 on Wednesday, December 13th, 2014 at 8:30 in the morning. Bail remains as set. Mr. Myers and Ms. Patterson, you're both ordered to appear in Department 2 on December 13th, 2014 at 8:30 in the morning for arraignment on the information. This case was assigned to Judge Thompson for all purposes, and we will have Mr. Myers' probation trial on the same day, as well as Mr. Myers' misdemeanor pretrial will trail to the same day with a general time waiver in effect. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you, counsel. Thank you, Your Honor. That was, you guys got to work out there, huh?
I loved that.
Yeah, good
awesome.
job. Yeah, and that end was all at 2:25.
Yeah, and it's a lot of colloquy, but it wasn't like perfect, but I can read it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. That's awesome. This was actually a transcript from my father-in-law.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's
nice.
So I had to change all the names, but yeah, it's pretty cool that, I was able to get some of his transcripts.
Yeah,
so,
that's really great.
Yeah.
Love it.
I know. I spent the other day just changing all the names and marking it. I thought, ooh, I told him I like this because the court transcripts seem to have more colloquy than the deposition. Both are just as important, but
yeah,
just seems like court has a little bit more, colloquy. So you get that practice in there. So
that was great. And it was obviously it was real. So it felt to me as you were doing like, oh, this is like how it would be,
Yes.
So nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Loved it.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you liked it.
I love 200 now. I used to be so hard. Now 200 feels so good. And 225, it's still tough sometimes, but the 200 is great. And I was thinking a couple of times, I was like, I lost it. But I would have said, rapid fire, slow down, and I could have said that in court.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And here, too, I want to let you know, so it's kind of funny because one of my good friends that I went to court reporting school with, and we carpooled every day, she is the reporter on this transcript. Yes. And she was really good friends with my father-in-law. So, yeah. So anyways, she it's funny because she always tells me like, oh, Jill, depositions would make me nervous. And it's like, why? Because you don't have the court there to stop people. And she said her judge will not let people talk very fast. Like he slows them down. She never has to say anything. He's always got her back. So I'm sure you probably wouldn't even, have to go up to that speed. She just said and I'm sure it depends on the judge too, but she said her judge is awesome.
I've been proofing for a particular reporter for a year now. And that's how I get most of her cases. And she goes to a couple different judges, but they're all really good about that. And I went and sat with her a few times, and he asked me, so what are you certified to? And I told him, well, I just passed the RPR, it's 225, but I don't want to write that fast. And he said, okay. And he told the attorneys, they're only going to write 200, so you guys slow down. It was great. It was just funny.
That is so awesome.
And when they start going, they forget and they just talk as fast as they want.
Yes. Yes. Or sometimes I think they want to make you nervous, so they purposely, do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know. You always get like some that are just like, they're just known to do that,
Yeah, they're great. I've enjoyed. I really love court. I really do.
I'm so excited for you.
We'll see.
We just had a couple of students that just got their license not too long ago, and they just got hired in they just hired quite a few reporters in LA court.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Robert told me he had a few previous Sage students so I mean, the work is out there, pretty much whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I do have, I had a job offer from a deposition firm that they said, as soon as you, if you get your results and you pass, you just contact this person. There's a link. He will get you going. He will set you up. I'm like, okay, I have no clue what to do, but let's just wait until the results come and then we'll see.
They will. They'll help you. They always have they usually have like a lead reporter at the if you do depositions, they'll have a lead reporter that will help you. Like will show you the, like what their format and what to bring. Yeah. I mean, I know for me when I know my agency did.
Yeah. They had people at the test that were just stopping and talking. Are you here for the test? I'm like, yeah. And they would talk to you. Okay, well, if you're interested, here's, write your information down and we'll contact you. So I did, because I'm just going to, talk to as many people as I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though like my agency's in Riverside, I did a lot of jobs in San Diego.
Really? Yeah, because you're not too far.
Right. I'm kind of in between Riverside and San Diego, but I mean, if you're there, even though like an agency might be centered in, San Bernardino, Riverside, a lot of times they've got jobs out your way.
Yeah, of course.
So that's good.
And then I'm only 12 miles. I'm 12 miles from the Vista Courthouse.
Oh, wow.
And I did almost I did about half of my intern hours there. And I'm in contact with the head reporter there.
Yes.
And she knows when I email her, like, just whenever you have a case, just let me know and I can come in. So she's really good about that. Whenever I want to come in, she lets me, and she's really helpful. So that's
so awesome.
Yeah.
Donna, you're going to see, because there's just a lot of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons because of all the baby boomers that are, retiring, but you're going to get to choose what avenue you want to go in. You're going to have so much work. It's like, okay, what do I want to do really? Where when I got out of school, it was different. I was like, pounding on doors because there were so many reporters at that time.
Really?
Yeah. I worked for probably 4 or 5 different agencies before I zoned in on one agency, before one gate. You know what I mean? You kind of like establish your name and then you become permanent over time, and full time, but it took a while. I had to work for a few different agencies and then, but it's not like that now. But
we'll see. I'd like to actually pass the exam before I'm too old and have to retire.
Oh, come on, please. No, you're going to be such an amazing reporter.
We'll see. I'm just going to not think too far ahead until I have, because I may have to take it again or who knows. So
yeah, well, yeah,
I'm ready. Whatever happens, I'm ready.
That's right. That's right. Worst case scenario, you take it again, but you already know what to expect, and then I'll go down and meet you in LA.
Yay!
So, yeah, I'll be there the whole time.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. If I don't see you or talk to you, have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
Okay.
And thanks for the Holly Davidson brief. I love that. I'm like, I'm going to put that in my dictionary.
Oh, and then I don't know if you do this, but meth, do you just do MEGT and then methamphetamine? Do you do meth?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's what I do too. Yeah.
And also, I love today we did a lot of assault and battery. Like,
Yeah.
oh yes, I have that. Great, that's great.
Stop. Yeah. Yep. I know. I love that one.
I love it when it's clean.
Yep. I know. I love that one too.
Yay.
So, all right.
All right.
Donna.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.